So today we're talking about senseis. I think it's really important. It's a critical part of the martial arts, but even if you're not a martial artist, the concept to me is very, very important. Hey, what's up? I'm Ken. This is kenfuTV, and each week I release videos on the martial arts, philosophy, training, technique, that sort of thing. This segment is called Ken Learns Kenfu, and it's about my reflections on the martial arts as I continue to train and continue on my journey. Something that's been on my mind for a number of years is this concept of the sensei and where they fit into the whole ecosystem, whether or not they should be this deific thing or what they should be, how they should fit into the whole equation. I have pretty strong feelings about it. Some of them are rooted in the language, the definition of the word, and I want to talk about that. But I also have strong feelings just in the role that person plays and some misconceptions. I want to talk about some misconceptions as well. So for starters, what is a sensei? Truly, I think it's all about what a sensei is not, and then we can talk about what they are. What a sensei is not, what everybody thinks they are, what everybody describes them as, is a teacher. And it's not true. Now, that might get me some flack. I might have things in the comments to go talk to later about this, but the truth is, a sensei is not a teacher. It does not mean teacher. It doesn't mean that that person won't also be a teacher. So let's talk about what it is now. So sensei, the word itself, means someone who was born before or someone who has gone before. I like the second definition better, especially for me, because there are people that I teach that are older than me, so being born before doesn't really apply, and I think that happens all the time. Perhaps not in traditional Japanese and Okinawan culture, but it's the truth of the reality of what it is these days. So we need to look at that. We need to understand how this all fits in. And notice I said teach, and that's because I am a teacher. That's a role that was important to me that I took on, maybe separately. So a sensei, someone who has gone before. This really gets into the heart of why, even if you're not into the martial arts, why this might be an important concept and somebody you might want to find and have in your life. Or really, I encourage you to spend some time thinking you probably already have a person like this in your life. It's really kind of hard to go through life without having a sensei of some kind. In fact, we usually have many. If you're outside of the Japanese culture, you probably don't think in these terms unless you're referring to the martial arts. So now, why is a sensei not a teacher? A sensei is not a teacher because they don't have to be a teacher. In a lot of cases, a mentor might be a better word. But truly, if you look at someone who has gone before, let's rephrase, let's rewrap that. Say it different. Somebody who's further on the path that's headed the direction that you're going. Now, that's a big idea. That's something that's really critical to this whole thing, is the idea that you have a direction, somewhere you want to go. You might not know why you're going there. You see this in more of the moral and ethical sides of people and in religion and things like that too. I don't know why you are the way you are or how things are for you, but I want that. I want that to be part of my life. That's kind of the thing that sometimes will happen for people. And that is a good summary of that. You have something that I want. You know something that I should know. You know the pitfalls of the things that are ahead of me. These things are all critical, right? So is a teacher a sensei? Absolutely. A sensei does not have to be a teacher, but a teacher does fall in line with being a sensei. Someone who knows about that, right? If you're taking a class from a teacher, and it could be a martial arts class, it could be an English class, it could be a math class. If you're working with somebody to learn a skill, a trade, any type of knowledge, then working with somebody who knows more than you is critical. It's the thing that's going to get you there, right? Their experience is a thing. You need to have experience, whether it's experience and then formal education and then experience, or they're happening at the same time. You need experience. But if you want that to go smoothly, having somebody who's further on that than you is a huge deal. That includes your job, right? This happens pretty naturally in the workplace. You get hired on, and there are people there that probably already do at least some of your job description, or maybe even universally, they do all of the things that you're going to be doing. So you get to learn from them. You get to learn the things that work. You get to learn the things that don't work. You get to see the things that they've tried that didn't go, and you get to bounce ideas and figure out where to go next. This is a very important moment. Talking about where things go next brings about a really important concept, which is the idea that a sensei is also not all-knowing. They don't have all the answers. They don't have everything. They're not a master or some kind of thing, right? And we'll kind of skip the idea of the master. Sensei and master and guru and all these things are kind of different totally different concepts from each other. So the sensei is not that. The sensei doesn't have all the answers. But what the sensei does have is experience. So you might run into situations that person hasn't dealt with yet. They may never deal with them because of the fact that you're a different person, right? You might be a different gender. You might be a different, in the martial arts, we have things like height and weight and flexibility and things that make us different in our abilities to do things. We might have different life experiences. So a person that's further on your path has experience to lean on when things are uncertain. So you come to somebody who's in this role for you, and you've got an experience, something you're dealing with that they haven't dealt with before. That doesn't mean that they don't have anything for you. Usually it means that they're going to be able to take the experiences they do have and help shape and refine where you might want to go, what things you may run into. They might not know concretely because they haven't been there themselves, but because of the way it ties together, they might have an inkling of where it could go and be able to give you important, critical feedback. Sensei is also a really big part of accelerating the process. Whatever it is. Maybe you're in construction. Maybe you're taking on formal education. Maybe you're in the martial arts. Maybe you're a runner. Maybe whatever. All these different things, right? Somebody who's been there further than you, who's worked and has some of the skill set or some of the knowledge and those things that you don't have yet, just being around them, seeing how they do what they do, how they talk about what they talk about, the things that they say, the things that they know, will accelerate your ability to get to where you're going. Think about it. If you're doing all those things on your own, how will you ever close that gap quickly? You know, I look at the fact that right now at my office, we're able to make significant strides in new directions in technology very quickly because we've got a whole team of people who have experiences, some that overlap, some that don't, and we're able to all work together to come to these things really quickly. But then I look back to when my boss opened the company, when he started the company, and it was him, just him. Think about what it was like for him. When he ran into something he had not experienced before, had no experience with, he had to start from scratch. He had to research or do whatever it was to find those answers. Now, when we run into those situations, we have a whole team that either has dealt with it before and has the knowledge, has dealt with things like it and can guide direction, or at least knows enough about the surrounding components to know which directions, which of the options might make the most sense to try first. That's so much faster than just not having a clue. So that's a description of how this kind of ties in together, and your martial arts is no different, and it fits everywhere. Having somebody around you who's trying to get to the same place you are, let me bounce that back. Let me say it again. I think that's really important. Having somebody around who's trying to get to the same place you are, not just has been there, done that, but ideally somebody who has been further on the path than you, but is still headed that way. That's the sensei you want. That's the one that's consistently striding towards. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't end up working with a sensei of some kind in your life that is no longer going that direction, who still has a wealth of knowledge that you could take and use yourself. It's very true. It can happen. It's not going to have the same ramp of acceleration. It may initially, and then it might drop off, because once you hit the part where they have not continued to move forward, you've kind of lost that. Whereas somebody who's continuing to go that direction, now, once you work to catch up to them, now you guys are riding together, bouncing ideas off of each other, having different experiences, sharing those experiences, and continuing to push each other forward. And ideally, you're surrounding yourself with more people, not just one, but multiple people headed the direction you're headed. That's why you see a lot of things like business after hours groups where business owners get together, why you see study groups where students get together, why you see the whole martial arts itself is built around this entire concept. All of these things have that idea of surrounding yourself with people who are trying to get where you're trying to go, or at least close enough that there's value in being together, right? I could get together with somebody who runs a restaurant. They're trying to go somewhere very different than me when it comes to my business. But that doesn't mean that the trials and tribulations of being a business owner aren't a part of that. And there's still a lot of value in at least those parts, those segments of that conversation. So right now, hopefully, as we've talked about this, you've kind of thought of people in your life who kind of fall into these categories. You know, your very first sensei or your parents. Cut them some slack. While they're further on the path than you, that doesn't mean that they have all the answers. A lot of times when you're becoming a parent, you're suddenly realizing the things that you didn't like about your parent, the things that you felt like they could have done better, and you realize, man, I don't know how you ever put all this together with me. I don't know how you figured all this stuff out because I'm scrambling, right? So you have people in your life, your parents, that sort of thing, that are further down. They're further along and they've got life experience to help guide you that way. Then we introduce our school teachers, right? Then maybe we get a coach who becomes more of a mentor, in athletic endeavors. A lot of those athletic endeavors ends up adding in kind of a moral and ethical component when you have a coach who cares about your well-being and whether or not you're getting into trouble and that sort of thing. Then the idea of making good choices and that sort of thing become a part of that relationship. Seeking higher education, moving into groups where with other business owners or managers or people, even conferences and things with other people trying to learn what you're trying to learn. Had a conversation recently with Bubka, and it was really, really good. Video up here if you want to go check that out. I hope you do. Les has a really great podcast, especially if you're a martial artist, especially if you're a karateka, a karate practitioner. Then you really want to check out his podcast. I'll make sure to drop a description below so you can check that out. Head over there, show him some love, let him know I sent you. I think you really will like his stuff. But this came up, he said, what is your advice for somebody who's trying to head down the practical martial arts path, which is something that I'm working on? And that was my answer, is to surround yourself with people who have done or are trying to do the same thing. If you surround yourself with a number of them, you're going to have senseis, people who are further on that path than you. If you surround yourself with enough people, then you will also be a sensei. You will have surrounded yourself with people who are also, maybe you're a little further than they are, and now you have this hierarchy, people just getting started, people where you're at, and people further than you. And that's beautiful. That's what we need. We need these kind of arrangements and these groups and these communities that help us grow. It doesn't matter what the topic is. Anything, any topic, any skill, any trade, any knowledge, if we can have that, that's how we go further. That's how we speed up the amount of time that it took to get there. There was a really great analogy made to scientists, how scientists work really hard to make the discoveries they make, and then new scientists learn about those discoveries, learn about the process, and pick up where they left off. They don't go have to do it all again. The martial arts can be kind of interesting that way, where we may have to go through processes that your sensei has already done to get you there. And I guess science and that stuff, same kind of thing, because you might be doing experiments and running the math and stuff to kind of get to that same place yourself. But that's the deal, right? We get there as quick as we can get to where they left off, and that means more time to make progress that hasn't been made yet, to move further, to take things farther on. Surrounding yourself with people that are passionate and inspired and want to go the directions you're trying to go is how you collectively with them get there. Go further than you've ever gone, further than maybe other people have ever gone. And that's my concept of the sensei, how it fits into life. How it fits into anyone's life, with or without the martial arts. I hope this was useful to you. I hope this thought, this idea is something that makes you think, or maybe it's something you were already thinking about. I hope maybe you think of people that might need to hear about this and share this video with them so that they can realize too, because sometimes the way to help people is just putting other people around them that way, right? Look at people look at a negative kind of situation is the idea of somebody struggling with alcoholism or drug abuse or different kinds of addictions, things like that. It sounds negative, but it is positive. When you get somebody into a support group, you're surrounding them with senseis. You're surrounding them with people who are further on the path of recovery. They have their own experiences with addiction or whatever it is, and then together as a group, they lift themselves out. They provide each other accountability, and they give each other advice and help each other out, or just listen to each other and show empathy and understand. While I might not know exactly where you're coming from, I know what it's like and I know what you must be going through, and let's get through it together. Why not? All of these things fall into that category of sensei for me. I think they're huge. I think it's really important. And I think we should also make sure that we're taking time to appreciate those people in our life. We have them. If we're in the martial arts, we probably have a very specific sensei or a couple sensei in the dojo that help us with stuff. But there are people outside of the dojo that fall into that category. So maybe take some time and realize who those people are. And even if it's just personally to yourself, take some time to appreciate them. Even better, Take some time to show your appreciation. That's it for today. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a like. While you're down there, be sure to drop a comment. Let me know what you thought. If you've got questions and thoughts and ideas, please drop those down there. If you like these kinds of videos, you can subscribe right here. I've got a playlist of videos like this you can check out right here, and then here's a couple specific ones that you might like. That said, I'll catch you in the next one.